Hello and welcome to a look ahead at the week through Vedic astrology for the week beginning the 31st of May 2016. The big news this week is the new moon in Mrigashira Nakshatra. Let's talk a little bit about Mrigashira Nakshatra and some of the things that are connected with this particular nakshatra, which will give us an idea of the tonality that we're dealing with this particular new moon. With Mrigashira, the desire, or I should say the motivation, is to seek fulfillment. And when we're seeking fulfillment, usually there is a prerequisite for seeking that fulfillment. And that prerequisite is usually that we are not satisfied, right? And Mrigashira Nakshatra is what's called a moksha-driven nakshatra. And moksha-driven nakshatras are always looking for release or liberation from a particular set of circumstances. And it's absolutely no different with this particular process as well. You have been sitting with the process for what feels like to you a really long time. And you're pining for change, and that desire has been welling up inside of you. Perhaps you've even taken some steps along the way in order to create that change already. Well, more steps are on the way for you. But there is likely a process over the course of the week which involves well, for lack of a better way to put it, a conflict of emotions, right? There are a lot of aspects that are being made to the sun this week. And I think it would be helpful to talk about some of the nature of the sun as well in order to understand what this energy is all about. The sun is a dry planet, and equally it's a Krura planet. Krura planets are cruel. They sometimes seem to come across in a very harsh manner. They come across in a harsh manner because they have a job that they have to do, and that's their primary concern, is just doing their duty. And similarly, dry planets will tend to function in the same way. All they care about is what needs to get done. They care very little for the feelings that are going on in the process. And with the sun this week, the sun is going to, in one area of your life, call upon you to make a sacrifice of your emotions for the sake of the greater good, for the sake of something that really needs to be taken care of. The only thing is inside of yourself, there's one part of you that's not really completely 100% sure about what it should be doing. What's going on with that? Well, amongst other things, we now have Jupiter edging forward in the sky, and it's closing in, and will do both this week and next week, on a conjunction with Rahu. Now, the actual conjunction happens later on, but in terms of the application of the aspect and the intensity of feeling in association with that aspect, you should begin to feel that about mid-month. In order to understand those particular energies, we need to take a look at the Phalguni nakshatras, which are Purva Phalguni and Uttara Phalguni. These mark the stage in the evolutionary journey where the soul, which has recently come into being, right, recognizes that it's got quite a journey ahead of it, things that it needs to accomplish. But one side of it doesn't feel quite prepared for the journey. So it's needing to sit with the process before it's ready to expand. As a matter of fact, Purva Phalguni is often symbolized by the legs of a cot, and equally a platform, right? So the legs of a cot, that's a resting place, right? The support of a resting place. The platform, platforms are where teachers used to sit when they imparted teachings to their students. So it's a pulling together of resources, a pulling together of information. And you've got Jupiter in Purva Phalguni Nakshatra. And Jupiter's in somewhat of an uncomfortable position at present, and especially as it's closing in with Rahu. So one part of it wants to expand, right? And it's a Sattvic planet. So it's looking for the most inspired way to do so, but it's sitting in a nakshatra that is making it feel uneasy with that particular process because it's ruled by Venus. And so that's going to make the temperament of that particular energy, while perhaps a bit racy or desire-oriented, but dissatisfied and uncomfortable, and maybe even, I want to use the word indolent, which means feeling like because one doesn't know what to do, then one's going to kind of sit and wallow in one's feelings and just kind of go, well, I don't really care, right? And contrasting that, you've got Rahu in Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. Uttara Phalguni is very important in terms of the week's energy because we've got a lot of aspects to the sun, and that sun is ruling Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. Now with Uttara Phalguni, which is associated with Aryaman, there is the confidence or the self-esteem that's building over time that makes one feel confident about setting off for the next stage of the journey, right? So you've got a contrast of energy. One part that's Rahu, that's creating this obsession with wanting to move forward with the journey. And then Jupiter that's kind of going, well, I'm not really kind of sure about all this. And it's kind of creating a bit of a tug of war, especially given the fact that Rahu is a tamasic planet. Tamasic planets are dense. They're heavy. There's usually a problem associated with the tamasic planet. Jupiter, on the other level, is a sattvic planet. So it's wanting inspiration. Sattvic planets are seeking inspiration and sometimes inspire in the process. So there's a blend of an energy that wants to find that inspiration that will inspire it for the next stage of the journey. But there's this dense, heavy energy that wants to act. That's going, well, forget about that. I feel confident. I'm ready to do things. But one part of you doesn't. So there's a tug of war that's going on. Equally, you've got a conjunction going on this week between Venus and the sun. And let's not forget the full moon, which is what we started talking about. But when a planet begins to close in on its proximity to the sun, even when that planet is in the same sign as the sun, what happens is it creates a particular avasta, or strength, or I should say lack of strength, but it's still called an avasta, that is called agitated avasta, right? So basically that planet feels agitated, or maybe a better word for that is fear. That planet feels a certain level of fear because it's being sacrificed for the well-being of the sun. So Venus, let's talk about Venus and what that's about. Venus likes to enjoy life. Venus is the minister in worldly affairs. So Venus represents our conscious desires and the desire to lead a fulfilling life. And we've been talking about Mrigashira Nakshatra, and both the sun and Venus and the moon are all going to be in Mrigashira Nakshatra when that's happening. So there's this desire for fulfillment. And there's the moon, which is more of our emotional nature. And all of that is being sacrificed for the sun because something has to be done. And when we close in on the new moon, which is going to be on the 5th, if you're in Europe, in the early morning hours, and if you're in the States, that's going to be on the 4th of June. The exact time in the UK, which is where I am, is 3:59 in the morning, so about 4 a.m. So you can just go to timeanddate.com and look up that new moon in your particular territory. But touching back on Mrigashira, Mrigashira is ruled by Mars, and we've got a retrograde Mars right now, which is going over old ground. Really wanting to understand something to a deeper level, and to the level that it's able to understand that energy. That's the level that it will begin to feel confident with moving ahead. That's the level that it will feel like helping the sun out with that confidence. Both Saturn and Mars are creating aspects to the sun as well. So that sun is feeling a bit of a tug of war. One part that's saying stop, and another part that's saying, well, we need to internalize and take a look at this before we're ready to act. And those two energies blending and connecting with the Jupiterian energy that we've been talking about. So all in all, it's a pretty dense and it's a pretty heavy energy. But towards the end of the week, about the time of the new moon, you begin to get an idea. You're able to see things clearly. And that actually supports the next stage of the journey, which is going to come in the following week. And I'm not going to give you too much of a look ahead at that. So really, on one level, just sit tight with the process. On one level, it might be kind of like a bubbling, boiling, melting pot of emotions that you're not really sure what to deal with, but just trust that that process is purifying, and it's going to bring you to a state of clarity about the time of the new moon. If you'd like a little bit of extra guidance, I should also point out to you either here or there, I don't know where I put it, so I will know by the time I put it in the video, is a link to my astrological services page where you can schedule a consultation with me. That's going to do it for a look ahead at the week through Vedic astrology for the week beginning the 31st of May, 2016. Until next time, please take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.